If you truly want to fix your entire life in one day, you must first understand something important. You are not going to solve every problem in 24 hours. You are not going to erase every mistake. You are not going to achieve every goal. And yet, your entire life can still change in a single day. How? Because while you cannot change your past in one day, you can change the direction of your future in one day. And that change begins with radical responsibility. Most people spend years trapped in the same cycle. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack potential, but because they continue searching for causes outside themselves. They blame their circumstances, they blame their family, they blame the economy, they blame their upbringing, they blame bad luck. They blame people who disappointed them. And sometimes those factors genuinely contributed to their struggles. Life is not always fair. Some people start ahead. Some people start behind. Some people receive support. Others face obstacles from the very beginning. This is reality. But there is a question that matters far more than what happened to you. The question is, what are you going to do now? Because the moment you become obsessed with blame, you surrender your power. You hand control of your future to circumstances. You tell yourself that change cannot happen until something external changes first. And this mindset quietly becomes a prison. Think about how many people spend years waiting for better conditions, waiting for motivation, waiting for confidence, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for someone to rescue them. Meanwhile, life continues moving forward. Days become months, months become years, and eventually they realize they have been waiting far longer than they have been living. Responsibility changes this. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is not about self-punishment. It is not about carrying the weight of every mistake forever. True responsibility is freedom. Because the moment you say, my life is my responsibility, you also say, my future is in my hands. That is a powerful realization. Consider two people facing the exact same challenge. Both lose their jobs. Both experience failure. Both encounter disappointment. One spends years explaining why life has treated them unfairly. The other begins asking, what can I learn from this? What can I do next? The circumstances are identical. The outcomes become completely different. Why? Because one person focused on blame. The other focused on responsibility. Responsibility creates movement. Blame creates stagnation. And movement is what changes lives. Many people believe they need more confidence before taking action. But confidence often comes after action, not before it. The person who accepts responsibility stops waiting to feel ready. They begin moving forward despite uncertainty. They begin taking ownership of their habits, their decisions, their actions, their reactions, their future, and suddenly life starts changing. Not because circumstances magically improve, but because they have stopped giving away their power. One of the most liberating truths you can discover is that you are not responsible for everything that happened to you, but you are responsible for what happens next. Write that carefully. You may not be responsible for the pain, but you are responsible for the healing. You may not be responsible for the betrayal, but you are responsible for how you respond. You may not be responsible for the obstacle, but you are responsible for the effort required to overcome it. This shift changes everything, because instead of asking, why is my life like this? You begin asking, what can I do today to improve it? That question immediately creates momentum. And momentum is often more valuable than motivation. The reason many people remain stuck is because they keep revisiting the past. They replay old conversations, old failures, old disappointments, old regrets, again and again. But no matter how many times you revisit yesterday, you cannot change it. Your power exists only in this moment, in today's decisions, in today's actions, in today's choices. That is why one day can change your entire life. Not because every problem disappears, but because you stop living as a victim of yesterday and start becoming the architect of tomorrow. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a completely different standard for yourself. No more excuses, no more blaming, no more waiting, no more surrendering your future to circumstances. Instead, you decide that from this moment forward, your life belongs to you, your growth belongs to you, your discipline belongs to you, your future belongs to you. This decision may seem simple, but never underestimate the power of a genuine decision. A real decision does not merely change your thoughts, it changes your actions, and actions create results. Every major transformation begins with a moment when someone becomes tired of their excuses, tired of their limitations, tired of waiting, and they finally say, enough. Not next week, not next month, not next year, today. This is the day I take ownership. This is the day I stop negotiating with my potential. This is the day I stop giving away my power. Because the truth is that your future has been waiting for one thing all along. Not better luck, not perfect circumstances, not someone else's permission. It has been waiting for your decision to take full responsibility for the life you have been given. For the day you stop blaming your past is the day your future finally begins. Once you accept responsibility for your life, the next step becomes clear. You must clear the mental chaos and create inner stillness. Most people think their biggest problem is a lack of opportunity, a lack of money, a lack of resources, a lack of support. But often, the real problem is much closer. Their mind has become so crowded that they can no longer hear themselves think. Look at the average day. The moment people wake up, they reach for their phones, messages, notifications, videos, opinions, argument, information. From morning until night, the mind is constantly being stimulated, constantly reacting, constantly consuming. And eventually, something important is lost, clarity. When the mind is filled with noise, even simple decisions become difficult. People become overwhelmed. They become distracted. They become confused about what truly matters. And when confusion dominates the mind, progress becomes nearly impossible. Think about a lake. When the water is disturbed, you cannot see through it. Everything appears unclear. Everything appears distorted. But when the water becomes still, clarity returns naturally. The mind operates in exactly the same way. Most people are trying to solve their problems while their minds remain in constant turbulence. They are searching for answers while continuously feeding themselves distractions. This is why stillness is so powerful. Not because stillness magically solves your problems, but because stillness allows you to see them clearly. Many people fear silence. They do not realize it, but they avoid it whenever possible. The television stays on. Music constantly plays. The phone is always nearby. Something is always demanding attention. Why? Because silence forces us to meet ourselves, and that can be uncomfortable. When the noise disappears, we can no longer escape our thoughts. We can no longer avoid the questions we have been postponing. We can no longer distract ourselves from the truth. Yet this discomfort is often where transformation begins, because the answers you seek are rarely hidden. They are usually buried beneath noise. You already know many of the changes you need to make. You know the habits that are hurting you. You know the excuses you keep repeating. You know the conversations you need to have. You know the decisions you have been avoiding. The problem is not always a lack of knowledge. The problem is a lack of honesty. And honesty becomes much easier when the mind becomes quiet. This is why self-observation is such an important practice, not judgment. Observation, there is a difference. Many people look at themselves and immediately begin criticizing. They focus on flaws, failures, weaknesses, mistakes. But criticism rarely creates lasting growth. Awareness does. Simply observe. Observe your habits. Observe your reactions. Observe your daily choices. Observe how you spend your time. Observe how you spend your energy. Observe what repeatedly pulls you away from your goals. When you observe without judgment, something remarkable happens. Patterns begin revealing themselves. You begin noticing things that were always there, but hidden beneath distraction. Perhaps you notice that you spend hours worrying about things you cannot control. Perhaps you notice that fear influences more of your decisions than you realized. Perhaps you notice that certain people leave you drained every time you interact with them. Perhaps you notice that your greatest obstacle is not external at all. It is internal. These realizations are powerful because awareness creates choice, and choice creates freedom. You cannot change what you refuse to see, but once you see clearly, transformation becomes possible. Another reason mental stillness matters is because it reconnects you with what is truly important. Many people are chasing goals they never consciously chose. They are pursuing paths that society told them to pursue. They are seeking approval from people whose approval will never satisfy them. They are running toward destinations they have never examined carefully, and because of this, they often achieve what they wanted only to discover it does not fulfill them. Stillness helps prevent this. It gives you space to ask meaningful questions. What kind of life do I truly want? What values matter most to me? What am I becoming through my current habits? If nothing changes, where will I be 5 years from now? These questions can completely alter the direction of a person's life, yet they are rarely asked because the mind remains too busy, too distracted, too occupied with immediate concerns. The irony is that many people believe they do not have time for reflection, but reflection often saves enormous amounts of time. A few moments of clarity can prevent years of moving in the wrong direction. A single honest realization can eliminate countless unnecessary struggles. This is why wisdom has always valued silence, not because silence is empty, but because silence reveals what noise conceals. When you create space within your mind, you begin seeing your life differently. Problems become clearer. Priorities become clearer. Opportunities become clearer. Your next steps become clearer. And clarity creates confidence. Not the confidence that comes from arrogance. The confidence that comes from understanding. Understanding where you are. Understanding what needs to change. Understanding what truly matters. If you want to fix your life, do not immediately search for more information. Pause first, become still. Observe honestly. Listen carefully. The mind that is constantly reacting rarely creates lasting change. The mind that learns to become still discovers the wisdom that has been waiting there all along. Because before you can change your life, you must first see your life clearly. And clarity is born in moments of silence. Now that you have accepted responsibility for your life and created space for clarity, the next step is both simple and difficult. You must eliminate what is secretly destroying your potential. Most people believe that changing their life requires adding something new, a new strategy, a new habit, a new opportunity, a new goal. And while those things can certainly help, transformation often begins in a different way. It begins by removing what is holding you back. Think about it. A person can have enormous potential and still remain stuck. Not because they lack ability, but because their energy is being drained in 100 different directions. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while holes continue leaking from the bottom. No matter how much water you add, the bucket never fills. This is exactly how many people live. They constantly search for more motivation, more knowledge, more opportunities, while ignoring the habits and influences that are quietly draining their progress every day. Before you add more to your life, you must first identify what needs to be removed. One of the biggest destroyers of potential is distraction. Never before in history have people had access to so much information. Yet never before have so many struggled to focus. Every day there are endless things competing for your attention. Videos, notifications, entertainment, arguments, opinions, news, endless streams of content. None of these things seem dangerous individually. That is what makes them so powerful. They steal your life in small pieces. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. An hour disappears, then another. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Months become years. And eventually people wonder why their lives have not changed. The answer is often simple. Their attention has been invested everywhere, except where it mattered most. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is constantly scattered, your results will also be scattered. This is why one of the most powerful decisions you can make in a single day is deciding what no longer deserves your attention. Another hidden destroyer of potential is negative influence. The people around you affect you more than you realize. Their beliefs influence your beliefs. Their standards influence your standards. Their habits influence your habits. Spend enough time around people who constantly complain, and complaining begins feeling normal. Spend enough time around people who avoid responsibility, and excuses begin feeling reasonable. Spend enough time around people who have abandoned growth, and eventually growth begins feeling unnecessary. This does not mean judging others. It means understanding influence. A seed cannot thrive in unhealthy soil. Likewise, human potential struggles to thrive in unhealthy environments. If you want your life to improve, you must become honest about the influences surrounding you. Ask yourself, who inspires me? Who drains me? Who encourages growth? Who encourages stagnation? Who helps me become stronger? Who repeatedly pulls me backward? These questions may feel uncomfortable, but uncomfortable truths often lead to necessary changes. Another obstacle that quietly destroys potential is procrastination. Many people think procrastination is a time management problem. It is not. It is often an emotional problem. People delay important actions because they fear failure, they fear criticism, they fear discomfort, they fear uncertainty. So they postpone. Tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month becomes next year. Meanwhile, opportunities quietly disappear. The tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that many never truly begin. Potential remains trapped inside intention. Dreams remain trapped inside plans. Life changes only when action begins. And action rarely arrives after endless waiting. It arrives when a person decides that discomfort is no longer an excuse. There is another destructive force that many people carry without realizing it. Old identities, old stories, old beliefs about themselves. Perhaps someone told you years ago that you were not talented enough, not intelligent enough, not capable enough. And even though years have passed, those words still influence your decisions. You continue acting according to a version of yourself that no longer exists. This is one of the greatest forms of self-sabotage. You cannot build a new life while remaining loyal to an outdated identity. If you continue seeing yourself as weak, you will behave weakly. If you continue seeing yourself as incapable, you will avoid opportunities. If you continue defining yourself by past failures, you will unconsciously recreate them. Sometimes fixing your life requires letting go of the person you have been, so that you can become the person you are capable of becoming. And perhaps the most important thing to eliminate is the habit of negotiating with yourself. You know this habit, the promise you make in the morning and break by afternoon, the commitment you make today and abandon tomorrow, the goal you set and repeatedly postpone. Every time you break a promise to yourself, trust weakens. And without self-trust, progress becomes difficult. This is why transformation often begins with one bold decision. A decision to stop tolerating what is draining your life. A decision to stop feeding habits that weaken you. A decision to stop giving energy to things that offer nothing in return. You do not need to fix everything today, but you do need to remove what is clearly standing in your way, because growth becomes much easier when obstacles are no longer blocking the path. And sometimes the fastest way to transform your life is not by adding more. It is by courageously letting go of everything that is preventing your potential from finally emerging. Once you have taken responsibility for your life, cleared the mental chaos, and removed what is draining your potential, the next step becomes essential. You must align your actions with the person you want to become. This is where many people become trapped. They know what they want. They have goals. They have dreams. They have plans. But their daily actions tell a completely different story. They say they want success, yet their habits support mediocrity. They say they want discipline, yet they continue choosing comfort. They say they want a better future, yet they continue repeating the behaviors that created their current reality. And this creates an internal conflict. Because life does not respond to what you say you want. Life responds to what you consistently do. Many people spend years waiting for their circumstances to change before they change themselves. They tell themselves, when I become successful, I will be disciplined. When I have more money, I will become responsible. When life gets easier, I will start taking action. But this is backwards. The successful person does not become disciplined after success. They become disciplined before success. The confident person does not become confident after achievement. They develop confidence through action before achievement. The future you desire is created by the person you choose to become today. This is why identity matters so much. Every action you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every decision strengthens an identity. When you keep your promises, you strengthen the identity of someone who is reliable. When you choose discipline over excuses, you strengthen the identity of someone who is strong. When you take action despite fear, you strengthen the identity of someone who is courageous. The opposite is also true. Every time you abandon your commitments, you reinforce a different identity. Every time you surrender to excuses, you strengthen weakness. Every time you avoid responsibility, you strengthen avoidance. Whether you realize it or not, your daily actions are shaping who you become. This is why lasting transformation is not about setting bigger goals. It is about becoming a different person. Imagine two individuals who both want to improve their health. One says, I want to lose weight. The other says, I am becoming a healthy person. The goal may appear similar, but the identity is different. The first person focuses on an outcome. The second person focuses on becoming. And becoming is far more powerful. Because when your identity changes, your behavior naturally begins changing as well. The same principle applies to every area of life. Do not simply ask what you want to achieve. Ask who you must become to achieve it. Who must you become to build a successful business? Who must you become to create financial freedom? Who must you become to build strong relationships? Who must you become to live with peace and purpose? These questions shift your attention away from external results and toward internal transformation. And that is where real change begins. Many people underestimate the power of one intentional day. They believe transformation requires years before anything meaningful happens. But often, a life changes the moment a person changes their standards. The moment they decide that excuses are no longer acceptable. The moment they stop acting according to who they were yesterday and start acting according to who they want to become tomorrow. That decision can happen today. In fact, it can happen right now. You do not need to wait until next year. You do not need to wait for perfect circumstances. You do not need to wait until you feel ready. The future version of yourself is built through the choices available in this moment. Every moment offers a choice between comfort and growth, a choice between excuses and responsibility, a choice between distraction and focus, a choice between remaining the same and becoming something greater. Most people focus on changing their results. Very few focus on changing their identity. Yet results are simply a reflection of identity over time. A disciplined person produces disciplined results. A focused person produces focused results. A committed person produces committed results. The outer world eventually mirrors the inner world. This is why one day can truly change an entire life. Not because everything becomes perfect overnight, but because a person finally stops acting like the version of themselves that created their problems. They begin acting like the version capable of solving them. At first, the changes may seem small. You wake up when you said you would. You complete a task you have been avoiding. You keep a promise to yourself. You choose growth over comfort. These actions appear insignificant, but they are not, because every action is evidence that a new identity is being created. And once that identity begins forming, momentum follows. Soon you no longer need constant motivation. You no longer need endless reminders. Your actions become aligned with who you believe yourself to be. This is one of the most powerful shifts a human being can experience. When behavior and identity move in the same direction, progress accelerates. The struggle becomes smaller, the resistance becomes weaker, and the future begins looking different, not because luck arrived, not because circumstances changed, but because you changed. Because the moment your actions align with the person you want to become is the moment your future begins aligning with the life you want to live. By now, you have accepted responsibility for your life, cleared the noise from your mind, removed what is draining your potential, and begun aligning your actions with the person you want to become. Now we arrive at one of the most practical and life-changing principles of all. You must create a simple daily system instead of waiting for motivation. This is where many people lose momentum. They experience a moment of inspiration. They feel energized, they make promises to themselves, they create ambitious goals. And for a few days, everything feels possible. Then motivation fades. Life becomes busy. Challenges appear. Old habits return. And suddenly, they find themselves back where they started. This cycle repeats endlessly for millions of people, not because they are lazy, not because they are incapable, but because they have built their future on motivation. And motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you will feel inspired. Some mornings you will not. Some days you will feel confident. Some days you will doubt yourself. Some days everything will flow smoothly. Other days everything will feel difficult. If your progress depends on your emotions, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why successful people rely on systems instead of feelings. A system removes the need to constantly decide. A system creates structure. A system allows progress to continue even when motivation disappears. Think about brushing your teeth. You do not wake up every morning and debate whether you should do it. You simply do it. Why? Because it has become part of your system. It requires very little mental energy. Now imagine applying that same principle to your goals. Imagine if exercising became part of your system, learning became part of your system, planning became part of your system, self-improvement became part of your system. Suddenly progress would no longer depend on whether you felt motivated. It would simply become part of how you live. This is one of the reasons why many people fail to change their lives. They focus on huge transformations instead of simple systems. They try to change everything overnight. They create unrealistic expectations. They attempt to become a completely different person in a single week. Eventually, the pressure becomes overwhelming. The system collapses, and disappointment follows. The truth is much simpler. You do not need a perfect plan. You need a sustainable plan, a plan that you can follow consistently, a plan that works even on difficult days, a plan that continues functioning when life becomes challenging. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consistency. Consider the power of a single structured day. You wake up at a specific time. You spend a few moments in silence. You move your body. You complete important work before distractions take over. You invest time in learning. You review your progress. You prepare for tomorrow. None of these actions are extraordinary by themselves, but together they create momentum. And momentum changes lives. Most people underestimate the power of ordinary days. They are waiting for a breakthrough, a dramatic opportunity, a major event. But your future is usually not created by a few extraordinary moments. It is created by thousands of ordinary moments repeated consistently. A great life is often the result of many well-lived days. This is why discipline becomes so important, Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect in action. It is the ability to do what is necessary even when it is not exciting. Many people misunderstand discipline because they associate it with restriction. But true discipline creates freedom. Financial discipline creates financial freedom. Health discipline creates physical freedom. Mental discipline creates emotional freedom. The temporary effort required by discipline eventually produces long-term rewards. Without discipline, life becomes reactive. You respond to every distraction, every emotion, every impulse, every temptation. With discipline, you begin directing your life intentionally. You become proactive rather than reactive. You become the architect rather than the passenger. Another powerful aspect of systems is that they reduce decision fatigue. Every day, human beings make countless decisions. The more decisions you must make, the more mental energy you consume. When important habits become part of a routine, they require less willpower. You no longer negotiate with yourself. You no longer waste energy debating. You simply follow the system. This creates remarkable consistency over time. And consistency is often more valuable than intensity. Many people can work hard for one day. Many people can stay motivated for 1 week. Very few people remain consistent for years. Yet those who do often achieve extraordinary results, not because they are extraordinary people, but because they follow ordinary systems with extraordinary consistency. If you truly want to fix your life, stop searching for the perfect motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect mood. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Build a system instead. Build a routine that supports your goals. Build habits that support your future. Build daily actions that move you forward regardless of how you feel, because motivation will come and go. Emotions will rise and fall. Circumstances will change. But a strong system remains. And over time, that system becomes the bridge between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming. For the person who creates a disciplined daily system no longer depends on motivation to change their life. They create progress by design, one day at a time. We have arrived at the final step, and in many ways, this step determines whether everything we have discussed becomes a temporary moment of inspiration or a permanent transformation. You must commit to a new standard and never negotiate with your future. Most people do not change because they lack information. They do not change because they lack ability. They do not change because they lack opportunity. They remain the same because their standards remain the same. Think about it. Every result in your life is connected to a standard you have accepted. The quality of your health reflects certain standards. The quality of your relationships reflects certain standards. Your financial situation reflects certain standards. Your habits reflect certain standards. Your daily choices reflect certain standards. Whether you realize it or not, your life is always moving toward the level of what you are willing to tolerate. If you tolerate excuses, excuses become part of your identity. If you tolerate procrastination, procrastination becomes part of your reality. If you tolerate mediocrity, mediocrity becomes your environment. The moment your standards rise, your life begins changing. Not because the world changes overnight, but because you stop accepting behaviors that no longer align with who you want to become. This is why transformation often begins with a decision. Not a wish, not a hope. A decision. There is a difference. A wish says, I would like things to be different. A decision says, things will be different. A wish waits for ideal circumstances. A decision creates action regardless of circumstances. Most people spend years wishing. Very few truly decide. When a person genuinely decides, something shifts within them. Excuses lose their power. Distractions become easier to recognize. Old habits begin losing their influence because the person is no longer asking whether they should change. The decision has already been made. Now they are simply living it. This is why keeping promises to yourself is so important. Every promise you keep strengthens trust. Every promise you break weakens trust. Imagine having a friend who repeatedly made commitments and never followed through. Eventually, you would stop trusting them. Yet many people do this to themselves every day. They promise to start tomorrow. They promise to stay disciplined. They promise to take action. Then they break the promise again and again and again. Over time, self-trust begins to disappear. Without self-trust, confidence becomes fragile. Because deep down, you no longer believe your own words. The solution is not making bigger promises. The solution is honoring smaller ones consistently. If you say you will wake up at a certain time, do it. If you say you will complete a task, do it. If you say you will spend 30 minutes improving yourself, do it. These actions may seem insignificant, but they are not. They are rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. And that relationship influences every area of your life. One of the greatest mistakes people make is negotiating with their future. They know what they should do, but they delay. They postpone, they compromise. They tell themselves that one more day will not matter. One more excuse will not matter. One more distraction will not matter. But life is shaped by accumulation. Small decisions accumulate. Small compromises accumulate. Small excuses accumulate. Eventually, they become a future that nobody intended to create. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you are negotiating with your future. Every time you abandon your standards, you are negotiating with your future. Every time you ignore what you know is right, you are negotiating with your future. And your future always pays the price. The strongest individuals understand something different. They understand that the person they will become tomorrow depends on the decisions they make today. They understand that discipline is an act of respect toward their future self. They understand that every action either strengthens or weakens the life they are trying to build. This creates a different mindset. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing today?" they ask, "What does my future require from me today?" That question changes everything, because feelings change constantly. Standards remain. Motivation changes constantly. Standards remain. Circumstances change constantly. Standards remain. When your life is guided by standards instead of emotions, consistency becomes possible. And consistency creates transformation. Remember, fixing your life in one day does not mean solving every problem immediately. It means making a decision so powerful that your future can no longer remain the same. It means drawing a line between who you were and who you are becoming. It means refusing to continue the habits that created your struggles. It means committing yourself to a higher standard of living, thinking, acting, and growing. This is available to every person, not next month, not next year. Today, right now, one decision, one commitment, one standard. That is often all it takes to change the direction of a life. Because extraordinary lives are not created by extraordinary circumstances. They are created by ordinary people who make extraordinary commitments and refuse to abandon them. And the day you stop negotiating with your future is the day your future finally begins working in your favor.